What do we have here? Who is this young fellow? Let's watch from afar.
Lightfall, the fast-paced platforming adventure game by Bishop Games, launched today on Steam and Nintendo Switch. Here are our thoughts. So for graphics, I gave the game a 7 out of 10. Lightfall is one of those types of games that benefits from the whole less is more mentality. Throughout each of the levels, the designers made wonderful use of color. And a lot of the platforms that the players interact with are black, but all the artistic design is in the background. With each new stage, the player can easily make out the areas they are visiting, from the outskirts of a plains land kind of village, to a murky swamp, to the secret forest capital of the Kamloops. Lightfall does a great job of making sure that the player can differentiate between safe platforms and obstacles. In every level, no matter which area you're in, the foreground is always a dark color, either black or like a dark maroon purple, and Lightfall's version of the classic platformer Spike are a bright, glowing pink crystal. All in all, while the stages of Lightfall are no Bob Ross painting, they do a wonderful job of keeping things simple and interesting. For sound, Lightfall gets a 9 out of 10. Right off the bat, Lightfall hits the player with some excellent music. Starting from the main menu music all the way through the entire story, the music helps set the tone for each area you visit. There are a couple of times where the speaking parts of the game do overpower the music, but that's easily fixed by adjusting the volume settings in the menu. As for the voice acting, it is very well done. Throughout the story, there are maybe only 2 characters that have speaking parts, but both of those characters were performed by the same voice actor, at least for the English audio of the version of Lightfall, and he did an excellent job. Though there aren't many different varieties of types of enemies, traps, and the like throughout the game, each one did have a good audio tell so that the player wouldn't be caught off guard by a sudden death. Okay, well, at least not after learning the tell. Sometimes, you hear the tell and then you die, and it's like, oh, okay, so that's the tell for this enemy or this trap. Again, the music in Lightfall was amazing, and as an added bonus, on Steam at least, it looks like the entire soundtrack will be available in the DLC section of the game. Whether it will be free with purchase or cost a little extra is yet to be determined at the moment of writing this review. Alright, so story for Lightfall gets an 8 out of 10. Lightfall's story has a lot of under-the-surface tones to it, while feeling a little straightforward. Throughout each of the areas, the story is narrated by the player's owl companion, Strix, and he gives you a little bit of backstory to some of the things happening in the world of Numbra. The main driving force of the main character is to help the Kamloop people, since waking up in a field and finding that the village inhabitants have all disappeared, and the appearance of these mysterious pink crystals. As the player progresses through the game, they discover more about the plot of the main villain, and together with Strix, work to bring an end to said villain. All in all, the story isn't anything extraordinarily original, but the simplicity of the story works great with the game. There's a ton of extra story if you look for it through one of the collectibles, and those diary entries are great additions to the lore of Numbra, but aren't important to the overall game. For gameplay, Lightfall gets a 10 out of 10. Lightfall does an amazing job of bringing on a fast-paced platforming adventure. The game can be played with a keyboard and mouse on Steam, though I'd recommend playing with a controller as it felt more natural to me and is how I played for this review. As the player progresses, they learn different ways to use the main character's cube, such as spawning it underneath for an extra platform, creating it in front to use a shield, and creating walls for the player to jump up. Also, as players move from area to area, new obstacles and enemies appear, making the player think outside the box to get past them. Now, while Lightfall does have end-of-act bosses, they aren't set up in the typical manner. Everything is a platforming puzzle, and you may need to jump from platform to platform to hit crystals to either let someone free or soak them in goo. The game does also have a hard mode, which adds more obstacles, and changes some enemy locations. But the biggest challenge of hard mode is that there is only one checkpoint in every level, at the beginning, challenging the player to complete the entire level without dying. The platforming is fun and fast-paced, and you're always looking for new ways to finish a level faster or trying to find all of the collectibles. For content and endgame, Lightfall gets a 9 out of 10. While Lightfall itself isn't a very long game, with only 4 acts consisting of 3 to 4 stages each, the game does have a bunch of other things the player can do. There are, of course, the different collectibles throughout each of the levels. The collectibles consist of golden triangles that are kind of a codex of the history of the Kamloops on Numbra, all from the perspective of a Kamloop named Paddlewood. There are also many Kamloop villagers trapped in crystals that can be located scattered throughout the different levels. Something that Lightfall does to aid the player in keeping track of what they've collected is that each level's checkpoints tell you how many of each there are in said level. On top of the hard mode that the game offers, there's also a speedrunning mode. In the speedrun mode, players can either tackle levels they have already finished one at a time, or the entire game in a marathon speedrun. This is a great addition to the game. Speedrunning is a big part of gaming culture now, and being able to practice single levels at a time to perfect each one for the big speedrun is amazing. Also, the mode allows players to race against other players' ghost data to challenge themselves and to learn some tips and tricks for each level. The speedrunning mode alone is a great addition to the end game of Lightfall and will keep players coming back to try to get the fastest time or just to beat their own times. Final thoughts, Lightfall is a great indie game addition to your gaming library, whether you're playing it on Steam or on the Nintendo Switch. While visually the game isn't anything groundbreaking, the fast-paced gameplay and platforming are the real gem for this title. With the collectibles and speedrun mode to come back to, players can easily find reasons to keep coming back to play more Lightfall even after finishing the story. In closing, I highly recommend this title to anyone who is big into platformers and trying to get into speedrunning. It may not win any awards this year, but it is definitely worth your time. Lightfall gets an 8.5 out of 10.